Good evening and thanks for watching. Tonight's topics include discussing AOC's story of being close to the riot breach during January 6th, which is now being met with fact checkers from conservative social media. Then we will talk about the fact sheet regarding China collecting Americans' DNA and what it could mean. After, we have a short analysis on Parler CEO John Mates, who is being terminated by the company board. And lastly, a discussion on the recent voting surrounding two congresswomen, Liz Cheney and Marjorie Taylor Greene, as the latter faces a removal vote today, along with Congressman Matt Gaetz willing to quit his seat to defend President Trump. Coming at 8:30 p.m., I'm David Zhang, you're watching Beyond the Noise. In our first topic today, Rep. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, in a video on Instagram claims that on the day of the Capitol Hill attack, she feared for her safety and her life due to the apparent breaches near her location. However, it was revealed that Ocasio-Cortez wasn't in the Capitol at the time of the attack on Congress. She was in another building. According to her official website, AOC's congressional office is in the Cannon House office building. Now, this building, which is accessible to the Capitol Hill, the main building, via a tunnel system. Congresswoman Nancy Mace pointed out on Tuesday that her office is only 2 doors down from AOC's in the same hallway, and she noted that insurrectionists never stormed at any area of that building at any given time. Now, she called out the New York representative for her egregious testimony, publicized on Instagram and maintained through her tweets. The Cannon building was notified by Capitol Police to evacuate via text messages at around 1:10 p.m. on January 6th. AOC says at this time, she heard door knocks, which is the police officer asking everyone to evacuate that building. Now, this was apparently due to the bombs at both the RNC and the DNC headquarters being reported around 1 p.m. Cops were sent to make sure everyone evacuated the Cannon building. She said she heard a loud boom boom knocking on her door. By then, the office, though, should have already been evacuated. Political reporter Sarah Ferris tweeted that the Cannon building was told to evacuate, and at her time of tweeting, it was about 1:22 p.m. Tom Fitzgerald of Fox 5 DC filmed him in a secure location after evacuating Cannon. Now, this is 20 minutes later. She tweeted that the building has been changed to do an internal relocation to a safer place. And around 10 minutes later, at 1:53 p.m., the building was clear for re-entry. So between 1 p.m. to 1:50 p.m., in about 50 minutes, the building was okayed to return to normal activity. This means that the report of bombs found near the location was not triggering a building evacuation completely, unless the bomb situation was somehow diffused by then. Now, the encounter AOC had with a cop has been highly exaggerated by her, as well AOC and everyone in the Cannon building should have already been evacuated to a safer location before the actual Capitol Hill riots took place or to even begin shape up. Because Trump didn't finish speaking until about after 1 p.m., and the actual breach of the Capitol doors didn't occur until around 1:30 p.m. Now, she also claimed that it was Trump supporters who planted the bombs that surrounded the Republican and the DNC committee headquarters the night before the Capitol Hill riot on January 5th. But in fact, here's the FBI, who is still searching for the suspect in the case. And nowhere here do we see any ties of the FBI's suspect to Trump or any Trump supporters in the case of their photo. Now, AOC alleged that Trump supporters had planted the bombs that, in her words, surrounded their offices. Now, on to our second topic today. National Counterintelligence and Security Center, NCSC, said in a fact sheet released on February 1st, the Chinese regime has for years collecting large amounts of American healthcare data, including sensitive genetic information, which pose serious privacy and national security risks, alongside illegal means such as cyber hacking. Beijing has used investments in American biotech companies and partnerships with hospitals and universities to gain access to U.S. healthcare and genetic data. Now, vast amounts of genomic information, which is a person's entire genetic sequence, can fuel developments in cutting-edge field of precision medicine or personalized medicine, allowing China to overtake the United States to become a global leader in biotechnology. Now, the paper says such data can also be weaponized to target individuals in the country for intelligence and military operations. The warning came as Chinese genetics giant BGI Group has drawn scrutiny over its aggressive efforts to push its COVID-19 test kits and support labs around the world, raising data security concerns by last August. The company has sold 35 million rapid COVID-19 testing kits to 180 countries and built 58 labs in 18 countries. The company approached several states last year to build and run COVID-19 testing labs, but none accepted after U.S. officials warned against the partnership. BGI says it does not gain access to patient data from its COVID-19 lab or test kits. But former director of the NCSC, William Evanina, told CBS that the labs were like Trojan horses. By setting up a gene sequencing equipment in the United States, the company could later exploit the equipment to mine Americans' genetic information. Sequencers are machines used to decode and analyze a person's entire genome. Now, the company was able to gain access to the US market and user data after it bought California-based sequence machine maker Complete Genomics for $118 million in 2013. Now, the paper noted, 3 years earlier, BGI received a $1.5 billion loan from the state-run China Development Bank. Chinese companies, including BGI, have also formed partnerships with hospitals, universities, and research institutes offering low-cost gene sequencing services. These partnerships allow U.S. entities to expand their research capabilities, while Chinese firms gain access to more genetic data on more diverse sets of people, which they can use for new medical products and services. A 2019 report found that at least 15 Chinese firms were licensed to perform genetic testing or sequencing on U.S. patients, giving them access to genetic data. Americans' genetic information is particularly valuable to China due to the ethnic diversity of the U.S. population. This is because varied data sets are more useful in research to identify genetic diseases. Now, the Chinese regime last year passed laws to severely limit the ability of foreign firms to access Chinese people's biological data. It's not a reverse reciprocal situation. Now, this is China's latest idea on controlling information warfare. Now, it's a tool to study Americans' various aspects as a system of warfare. Data to the CCP right now is the equivalent of top-form intelligence gathered within the US. It's actually worse in this case because having the DNA of the US citizens allows for extensive forensic study of every aspect of an American person. Now imagine going to war against that, someone who knows everything about you, to the bones and even to your ancestral history. But China to its own citizens is a different story. A pandemic control volunteer in northeastern China was stabbed to death on February 3rd while attempting to block a resident from leaving his apartment complex. The volunteer, surnamed Zhang, worked as a guard at a residential community in Hunan District, Harbin City. He was stabbed multiple times after he refused to let a resident named Chen to leave the complex as per lockdown rules. Zhang was immediately rushed to a hospital but was declared dead upon arrival. The northeastern province of Heilongjiang is one of the heaviest hit regions in China's latest CCP virus resurgence. In the capital of Harbin, many communities are currently facing very strict lockdown rules. According to the Epoch Times, one resident explained that Chen wanted to go out to buy medicine, but Zhang blocked him at the community entrance. Chen then went back home and returned with a knife, stabbing Zhang several times. The resident also revealed that almost all residents in Hunan District has been ordered to stay at home. Households with COVID-19 positive family members have had their front doors sealed to keep everyone inside. And Chinese authorities enforce strict rules for COVID without actually caring about the lockdown neighborhoods and its people, if they have the necessity to live or even any of their mental pressure. Long lockdowns and pressure is actually forcing the Chinese people to act on some extreme side of things. Now, before we go on, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe to the channel. As well, like this video and comment below. And hit the notification bell. Now, we have been demonetized by YouTube. It means we can no longer place any ads. However, because YouTube is trying to tell us to censor our content and release what they want us to tell. Now, we don't want to cave into the pressure from YouTube. Therefore, we created a donation link in the description box below. Check it out. Now, to our third topic today, John Mates, the CEO of Parler, announced late Wednesday that he has been terminated as the company's CEO. Mates said that the Parler board on January 29th decided to terminate his position, adding that he did not participate in the decision. The Parler board is controlled by Rebecca Mercer, the daughter of hedge fund billionaire Robert Mercer. Mates said in a memo, "I understand that those who now control the company have made some communications to employees and other third parties that have unfortunately created confusion and prompted me to make this public statement. Over the past few months, I've met constant resistance to my product vision, my strong belief in free speech, and my view on how the Parler site should be managed. For example, I advocated for more product stability and what I believe is a more effective approach to content moderation." Dan Bongino, a conservative media personality and Parler investor, in a Facebook video disputed Mates' version of the events surrounding his termination.
Let me be crystal clear on this. He makes 2 points. That, I was a big advocate for free speech. It was my vision. And I was a big advocate for product stability. That is not true. Everybody digging my chili, what I'm laying down, that is not true. That is false.
And that the relationship with Parler and the CEO did not work out because the CEO's vision was not ours. He said, "Our vision was crystal clear. We needed to get up and fight back. Some terrible decisions were made in the past that led to this point, that led to us getting put down by Amazon and others. It was us, me, and 2 other owners that were constantly on the side of this site was going to be a free speech platform or it was going to be nothing."
Folks, we could have been up after Apple, Amazon, and Google wiped this out. We could have been up in a week if we just would have bent the knee and followed all the ridiculous Apple edicts to become a heavy moderation site to the left of Twitter. That's not what we're going to do. We don't want garbage on our site either, and we took the proper steps to do that. But we were a free speech site and will remain as such, and that's why it's taken so long to get back up.
Now, after hearing this, I really believe that there are some massive difficulties facing Parler at a particularly unique time. I wanted to highlight my fear for this. Parler sort of became the victim of cancel culture and the social media purge. But the thing is, now that it's been so long since they have been taken offline, I'm just scared that even if they come back now, are users still that interested in that particular platform? Now, we now have more users on Gab, Telegram, SafeChat, among a few others. And I feel bad because Parler was obviously the most similar to Twitter and the most developed. The situation is that I believe Parler's hosting after Amazon became quite complicated. There were talks about using Russian servers and that, but that comes with national security issues and national interest issues. Also, considering the growth capacity and safety of the servers, it also becomes an issue. And how much pressure can the server hosting companies or even the top level take before they cave in? As well, with the current moderation content and all of the current management, it still needs to be disputed even internally with Parler. That's the big problem for them. Now, these are complicated issues to conquer, especially considering the goal of the big tech is to eliminate these platforms from growing completely. Speaking of the Amazon Web Services, which hosted Parler, Jeff Bezos, who founded Amazon, is stepping down as CEO. Now, he'll be replaced in the fall by Andy Jassy, who runs Amazon's cloud computing business, including Amazon Web Services. CNN's president, Jeff Zucker, is also stepping down after this year ends. With these big techs and media companies, the founders who was CEO usually leaves the position, but in actuality still holds key executive decision-making ability within the company for a while. Google's co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin relinquished their executive positions in parent company Alphabet in 2019. Oracle's Larry Ellison stepped down as CEO in 2014. Bill Gates was Microsoft CEO until 2000, kept a day-to-day role at the company until 2008, and served as its chairman until 2014. And Gates left the board entirely just last year to focus on philanthropy. In our last topic today, the House of Representatives plans to vote about whether to strip Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene of her committee assignments because of the freshman congresswoman's apparent online embrace of conspiracy theories. The proposal, sponsored by Rep. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, would remove Greene from her assignments on the House Education and Labor and House Budget Committees for the remainder of the congressional session. Greene on February 3rd said Democrats are engaging in a mob cancel campaign and said mainstream media outlets are refusing to share her rebuttals. The establishment wing of the Republican Party voted in favor of keeping Rep. Liz Cheney as the chair of the GOP conference, beating back in an attempt from the pro-Trump Republicans who sought to punish her for voting to impeach President Trump. According to the Hill, a secret vote followed a heated meeting held in the basement of the Capitol Visitor Center, during which dozens of House Republicans expressed their frustration with Cheney. However, the vote 145 to 61 secret ballot vote means Cheney will still remain as the most powerful Republican woman in Congress, even as she faces the prospect of a primary challenge fueled by a pro-Trump political action committee. House Freedom Caucus Chairman Andy Biggs and Rep. Matt Rosendale drafted the resolution against Cheney. Biggs and Rosendale argued that Cheney does not deserve a leadership role after attacking the leader of the Republican Party. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy rallied support for Cheney, arguing in favor of ending the internal feud and keeping his leadership team intact. Cheney was one of the 10 Republicans who voted to impeach Trump for a single count of inciting an insurrection. The other Republicans who voted with the Democrats were Anthony Gonzalez, Jamie Herrera Beutler, John Katko, Adam Kinzinger, Peter Major, Dan Newhouse, Tom Rice, Fred Upton, and David Valado. Now, Cheney blasted Trump in a statement leading up to the impeachment vote, fully siding with the Democrat allegations that the president incited the mob attack on January 6th. In his speech on the day of the attack, Trump urged followers to make their voices heard peacefully. After the news of the violence broke out, Trump disavowed the perpetrators and urged people to go home. In other related congressional news, Rep. Matt Gaetz, an outspoken ally of former President Trump, said he would give up his House seat if he was asked to defend Trump at the impeachment trial, which is slated to begin next week. Now, in a February 3rd interview on the War Room podcast, Gaetz said some House colleagues had discussed whether they could represent Trump during the trial. They were told by the House Committee on Ethics that they couldn't do so as sitting members of the House. He said Gaetz took issues with the current strategy employed by the Trump's legal team and said he would absolutely resign if called upon. Matt says, "I love my district, but I view this cancellation of the Trump presidency and the Trump movement as one of the major risks to my people, both in my district and all throughout this great country." He said, "If the president called me and wanted me to go defend him on the floor of the Senate, that would be the top priority in my life. I would leave my House seat. I would leave my home." Gaetz said he would take the opportunity to ensure that Trump got a full-throated defense that wasn't crouched down, that wasn't in fear of losing some moderate Republican senators. And that is it for today. Thanks so much for watching, but before we go, YouTube has decided to demonetize our channel, which means we can no longer place ads on the videos. Now, YouTube says we must change our content and follow their rules in order for us to reapply for monetization. Now, we don't want to do that, so what we did instead was set up a donor box link in the description box below if you would like to support us. We upload videos to YouMaker, and we also have an email newsletter link in the description box below for you to sign up to stay connected to the channel. To stay connected on our social media, we have Twitter and Telegram. Thank you so much for watching and supporting Beyond the Noise. Take care and have a good night.